ATV On Demand recently tested Kawasaki's 2009 KFX450R. With features such as fuel injection, reverse gear, and its 46-inch width, the KFX450R is best suited to aggressive off-road riding. The KFX has a responsive engine with good low-end horsepower. It corners well, has powerful brakes, and its overall quality of construction is quite good. Unfortunately, a lack of upper mid and top end horsepower, too soft front suspension, and a front end that can be twitchy under rough braking hold the KFX back a bit in stock form when it comes to running in rough wide open sections or at race speeds. Alan Knowles from CT Racing told us that he had a budget KFX450R project that he'd done for ATV Rider magazine that cured its stock woes and gave it a leg up on its competition.
Hey, I'm Alan Knowles from CT Racing. I'm out here with ATV On Demand. This is a bike we built for ATV Rider magazine. You'll see it posted up in the January issue. It's a Kawasaki KFX450. It's a bike that we took and just developed to fix the things that we didn't really like about the stock bike. It's not some over-the-top magazine bike. We just wanted to go over the few issues that we thought would make the bike a really good all-around trail bike, raceable for some situations. And I can go over all that with you. I'm going to start on the front end. The stock Kawasaki under braking is a little bit twitchy for my likes. If you're not a super aggressive rider, it may not be bad, but if you're a real aggressive and use a lot of front brake, you're going to find it gets a little bit twitchy. So the first thing that we did to combat that, we went to Teixeira Racing, had them build us just upper A-arms. Stock lower A-arms are fine, the width of the bike is fine for a lot of applications. We just wanted to get some caster in it and bring the caster back, makes the bike go straighter as the front end dips down. As the front end dips down, it makes the caster change, and that's what makes it twitchy. We wanted to get rid of that. So Teixeira makes a caster adjustable A-arm, and it's super easy to adjust it. He's got little teeth in there that you just simply loosen the upper ball joint here, and you can move it back and forward without having to remove anything. You just loosen the nut up, slide forward, lock it back down, lock solid, can't be moved, crash proof. It's a really nice setup. Actually the best I've seen as far as upper A-arm caster adjustment. The next thing I want to talk about on the front end, staying with the issue of making it handle better under braking and in rough conditions, is the front shocks. The front shocks are just too soft. So we went to No Lean J6, got Clark Jones there to help us out with the front end. We weren't trying to spend a ton of money. We're trying to keep it as a budget bike. So we stayed with the stock shocks. It's a stock body. It's a rebuildable, adjustable, so we could do a lot with it. It has rebound adjustment, has compression adjustment. There just wasn't enough there in stock trim to get us what we wanted. So Clark actually went back, revalved the shocks, gave us what we wanted, and he set it up with a double spring. A top spring to keep the thing plush in the small stuff, and then a main spring so we didn't bottom it like we did in stock trim. And the top spring has a little bit to do with ride height, so we could also keep the bike low to the ground. And overall, it's working outstanding for us. The stock shocks couldn't add more wheel travel, so we're still stuck with stock wheel travel, but for most aggressive off-road riding, that's fine. If you're one that has to have the real long wheel travel, then you can look at maybe the No Lean J6 complete set of shocks. The next thing we went to, as the bike got better, we actually rode it in stages as we built it. We rode it without a steering dampener, did some testing without the dampener, still didn't have exactly what we wanted under some of the rougher conditions, so we went back to Blingstar, put on their steering stabilizer. It's adjustable, a couple clicks here or there. It's not one of those over-the-top ones, the bars that cost you an arm and a leg. This one's reasonably priced and does exactly what we needed to do. Stayed with our theme of this bike, keeping it reasonably priced and just making it a good bike. To finish off the handling of the bike, make it work really well for what we're doing, you got to put the right tires on for the right situation. You'll find the Maxxis Razor tires are predominantly used for off-road racing. The reason they are is they make the bike handle so well. We left this bike narrow so it can get through the tight stuff, but if you go to something like the Maxxis tire, it keeps the bike flat and stable in the corners, stops the rolliness, and that's real important for what we want to do, give you that security of being able to fly through the corners without tipping the bike. And it allows you to run the bike narrow. We also went with some OMF support rings. When they weld these on, it just makes the rim really tough, so you can hit some rocks, bend the rim, keep the air in the tire and keep going without having to be pulled off the side somewhere. We've got the Pro Armor stuff on it. Pro Armor did the bumper, obviously. Nerf bars. Nerf bars have a Pro Peg type setup and a heel guard. And of the built-in heel guards, it's actually nice when there's a lot of room behind. A lot of them, you kind of keep running your foot into the back of it. They did a nice job with that. So I'm real happy with the Pro Armor setup, heel guards. Their pegs are wide enough, give you a good platform so it doesn't hurt on the covering up my mistakes in the big landings, over jumping stuff or doing other stupid stuff. The other thing is underneath, we've got a glide plate that goes all the way from back to front from Pro Armor. They make a really nice glide plate, and that ties back to their swing arm skid plate. When you're going to ride through the rocks, you want to take care of your stuff, bolt some good stuff on there. The next issue with the Kawasaki, I participated in a couple shootouts this year. I did the shootout with ATV Rider magazine, so I got to ride 7 of the Performance 450s, and the Kawasaki, power-wise, was down towards the bottom. It was one of the slower 450s. So on paper, it looks like it should be a good, overhead cam motor, all kinds of good stuff, fuel injected. Thought it would be towards the top, just didn't land that way. So at CT Racing, we just went after a development program to get it up on par with the other bikes with a pipe. We found that just putting a pipe on the Kawasaki, it didn't respond as much as some of the other bikes, the Suzuki 450 or the Yamaha YZF 450. So we just went after to address those issues. What we ended up doing, we put the pipe on, did a bunch of dyno testing, got what we could out of the pipe. The next thing we went to doing was we slid on a intake cam. It helped, it picked up another horsepower, a little over horsepower. Still didn't get us competitive horsepower with the other lightly modified 450s. The big chunk of horsepower we found that really got us where we need to be is a fuel customs intake. We put that thing on, it was over 3 horsepower. So it was almost like adding another pipe, and it got us right up where we needed to be. We went and tested it that way. We found with a pipe only on the Kawasaki, lit off the airbox, you could ride the thing without adjusting the fuel, compensating it all. But as soon as we put the fuel customs intake on, the thing pinged its brains out. Air fuel went lean on our dyno, so we ended up having to address the fuel issues. So we went to a Dynatech FI fuel controller, tuned the thing, got the thing up in 48 and change horsepower, almost 49 horsepower, and that's very competitive for light bolt-on stuff, no internal motor mods, and has a very wide power curve, which the bike didn't have in stock trim. In stock trim, the Kawasaki seat is about as hard as a 2x4. So we went to Billy at Quad Tech, had him put new foam underneath this, put on one of his nice non-slip covers, cosmetically correct so it matches. Billy does a nice job with the seat stuff, and he has a few different offerings. He does this just seat where you can get back over. He does some of them to put a little hump seat to keep you from sliding back too far. As tall as I am, I kind of like to get way back, so I like this style. But anyhow, you really need to get some foam in the Kawasaki, and Billy has the best setup. To also make the bike more comfortable besides the seat, set the ergonomics up. The stock Kawasaki bars are pretty good. What I found is you could actually flip the mounting hardware around and actually move the bars forward a little bit, so we did that. And then we go to ASV levers. ASV offers some pretty cool stuff. They're unbreakable. This isn't really that much of an issue with an ATV, more so on a motorcycle, but when they do this, it allows you to come in with an Allen and actually set how far you want the lever out for your hand size. So you can actually dial them in for yourself. It's just not one size fits all. If you've got a big hand, you can move it out farther, small hand, bring it in. Both the clutch and the brake are like that. Also adjust on the fly. I'm a fanatic about how much free play I have, so I'll adjust it. If it's not right during, when I'm riding, I really like to have that feature. So these levers have really good features. That's all you need. The clutch has got a nice pull. Some of the cheap ones you buy, the import clutch levers, you end up with a stiffer pull, and that's a problem. People think they look good. You can buy some import levers that look cool, but you end up with a stiffer clutch pull, and that's not good. So that's about all we did for this bike. We went with spider grips. These things, they're small, they're soft, but they're tough as heck. They got really good end caps, so you don't knock the ends off. I've used them in a lot of off-road stuff, even racing GNCCs. They get wet, you still have a good grip. I don't know what else you can get out of a grip. I mean, they really last a long time.
Racing through the desert for the first time, the difference between the stock and CT-modified KFX450R was immediately apparent. Its already good low RPM horsepower was increased, along with a real awakening in mid-range and top-end power. In tighter technical situations, the KFX could now be shifted much less often, thanks to its much broader electric smooth power band. With stock tire size and gearing, the KFX now reaches its top speed very quickly. We often found ourselves grabbing for another gear and felt the machine could pull an additional tooth on the countershaft sprocket for more top speed. The tough lower profile Maxxis tires increased cornering stability and did a good job of getting the extra horsepower hooked into the loose desert floor. Although OMF's wheels don't provide an increase in performance you can feel, you definitely feel more secure pounding through the rocky desert, knowing you won't be walking miles back to camp due to a bent wheel. Although the KFX retains its agile steering, 95% of the twitchy feeling has been taken out of the front end, thanks to the combination of the caster adjustable Teixeira Tech upper A arms and Blingstar steering stabilizer. With both the front and rear shocks revalved and resprung by Nolene J6, the KFX450R suspension has been greatly improved overall. Although its stock wheel travel couldn't be increased, it feels much longer landing from jumps with a 200-pound rider on board. Although they have more bottoming resistance, the shocks remain plush through choppy desert whoops. The formerly too soft front suspension has really come to life, making the most of its 8.5 inches of wheel travel. Suspension action at both ends seemed quite balanced, and when you did occasionally find its limits, it never seemed to kick or swap out. Although we highly recommend having both ends done, if you're on a tight budget, we'd recommend doing the front shocks first for the biggest improvement for the money. Pro Armor's Fat Pig Nerf bars, Quadtech seated seat foam, spider grips, and ASV levers have made all contact points on the machine more comfortable, especially for long rides. In stock condition, we felt the KFX was best suited to off-road riding or racing. CT Racing and the other companies involved have built on the machine's strengths while eliminating its weaknesses. With all of the components from this budget build added together, this Kawasaki is good enough to win many of the amateur classes in the G and CC series, or simply serve as the ultimate sport machine for the off-road or trail riding enthusiast. For more information on this build, or more exciting ATV tests, news, and information, check out the January issue of ATV Rider magazine.